You think you're finally done with me, Smith? By the time I'm finished, you'll wish you never found out. Those were the last words my wife Emily hissed at me the night she realized I knew about her secret life. The parties, the lies, and the one-night stand she thought she buried in the dark. She didn't know I'd been watching her unravel long before that night. She didn't know I had every message, every lie, every betrayal documented and ready to detonate. What followed wasn't rage. It wasn't screaming. It was a quiet, surgical revenge that made everyone around her question who she truly was. Viewers, has anyone ever betrayed you so deeply that your entire world tilted? How would you respond, explode, or let silence do the cutting? Drop your thoughts below. Please subscribe, like, comment and watch till the ending to share this interesting story to your family and Friday. My name is Smith Mark, 38 years old, a home renovation contractor living in Charlotte, North Carolina. People say I'm patient, steady, the kind of man who fixes broken things with quiet hands. But some breaks aren't measured in inches or degrees, they split right down the center of your life, and you only realize the damage when the pieces stop fitting together. I didn't always expect my marriage to fall apart. When I met Emily 8 years ago, she had that kind of brightness that made you think she'd light up any room you brought her into. Back then, I didn't notice the flicker behind her smiles, the way she needed attention like it was oxygen. I just thought she was lively, fun, spontaneous. I mistook volatility for passion, and she mistook my steadiness for something she could mold into the stability she never had. Most mornings I'd leave for work before sunrise. That day was different. The light felt colder, harsher, and when I carried out the trash, I saw something glinting inside the bin. A gold invitation, heavy paper, embossed lettering. The Lantern Room. Members only. Couples night. My name wasn't on it. Hers was. Looking back, that moment had a strange calm to it, like the quiet right before a building collapses. A kind of stillness that tells you everything you thought you understood is about to change. I kept staring at that anonymous message long after the glow of my phone dimmed, the words echoing in my mind as if someone had whispered them over my shoulder. Check her calendar. I didn't want to believe any of this. I didn't want to be the kind of husband who snoops, who doubts, who digs through digital corners looking for answers he never wanted in the first place. But as I stood in the quiet kitchen, the rain starting to patter softly against the windows, the truth felt close, too close, to ignore. My hands shook slightly as I walked toward the bedroom. The moment I pushed the door open, I heard the shower running. Steam curled out from beneath the door like a warning. Emily always took long showers when she wanted to avoid conversations. Seeing her laptop open on the vanity counter, unguarded, was strange enough to quicken my pulse. She rarely left anything unlocked anymore. I don't know what I expected to find, but not a glowing reminder marked private. Not the initials M and L. Not a timestamp that matched the time she claimed she'd be doing a solo spa night. Not another lie waiting in quiet digital letters. My breath caught halfway in my throat as I stared at the screen. Emily's voice echoed in my memory, from years ago, telling me she'd changed, that her wild past was behind her. But the calendar in front of me said otherwise. The shower shut off. Smith? You home? I closed the laptop, my heartbeat thunder. Ring, please don't forget to subscribe. I didn't sleep after finding that message. The words, check her calendar, kept echoing in my head long after I'd turned off every light in the house. By the time morning hit, I felt like I'd aged a decade. When Emily stepped into the shower, humming the same tune she always hummed when she wanted to appear carefree, I walked into the bedroom and saw her laptop open on the dresser. Normally that wouldn't have meant anything. But today it felt like an invitation. I stared at it for a long second, waiting, hoping, for a reason not to look. Hoping for some invisible force to stop me, to remind me trust should come before suspicion. But all I could hear was the lie she told me about the Lantern Room, and the static white tension humming under her voice when she said it was just a bar. I clicked her calendar. There it was. Saturday 10 p.m., M&L hosting. My stomach dropped so fast I had to grab the dresser for balance. Mark and Lila. The couple from the gym Emily talked about constantly but always vaguely, as if every story had a missing frame. She met them during a partner workout months ago and suddenly they were texting her, sending memes, inviting her to weekend brunches I was never included in. When I'd asked why, she'd laughed and said, "They're just more my vibe." Now I could see the truth forming like storm clouds. The shower shut off. I closed the laptop just as Emily stepped out, wrapped in steam and a towel, smiling the same smile she used before every lie she thought she'd perfected. Saturday night arrived with the kind of thick, humid air Charlotte gets before a storm, the kind that clings to your skin and makes everything feel heavier, slower, more deliberate. Emily stood in front of the hallway mirror in a dress I'd never seen before, low-backed, shimmering under the soft lights, something she must have bought in secret. She said she was headed to a spa night, but no one goes to a spa dressed like that. She didn't even bring a bag. Just her phone, lip gloss, and keys. She didn't look at me when she left, and that told me more than any lie she could have spoken. I waited exactly 1 minute before grabbing my truck keys. My heartbeat wasn't frantic, more like a slow, steady drum. The kind you hear before a showdown. My father used to say that silence before the truth hits is the loudest sound a man will ever hear. Sitting behind the wheel, following her taillights through the city, I finally understood what he meant. She drove downtown deeper than I expected, past the restaurants, past the bars, to a clean, unmarked building beneath a flickering street lamp. The symbol of a lantern glowed faintly above the door like some secret emblem. She pulled into the underground garage and I stayed back in the shadow of a column. When she stepped out of her car, Mark and Lila parked right beside her, as if they had coordinated it. Emily hugged them, too closely, too comfortably. And all three walked inside together. Please don't forget to subscribe. The hallway outside the lounge was dim, lit by weak sconces that flickered like they were trying to warn me away, but curiosity, or maybe dread, pulled me forward. I edged close enough to see through the frosted glass panel overlooking the room below. Warm light spilled across the velvet curtains and low leather couches arranged in clusters, like little islands where people were drifting toward one another with magnetic ease. The music was a deep, sensual bass line that seemed to vibrate right through the walls. Everything in that room felt hushed and secretive, like the kind of place people entered to become someone else. Then I saw her. Emily stood near the bar, her head tilted back just slightly, laughter spilling from her lips in a way I hadn't seen in months. The way she laughed with him, God, that man, was so effortless, so unguarded, it was like watching a stranger wearing my wife's face. He leaned in close, whispering something that made her bite her lip. I felt my stomach twist. That was the same expression she used to give me back when we were just dating, before life got heavy and complicated. Before the lies. A flashback hit me hard. Us at a rooftop bar during our first year together. She wore a sundress the wind kept playing with, and when she leaned in close to whisper something, I remember thinking she was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. That memory stabbed at me now, because I saw her giving the same soft, intimate look to a man I'd never met. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I jolted, almost giving myself away. The screen lit up with that same unknown number. A new text waited for me, almost smug in its timing. Now you see who she really is. I stayed there, frozen, watching her laugh with him, touch his arm, pull him closer. And something inside me broke, not loudly, not violently. More like a quiet snap, the sound of a rope finally giving way after being strained too long. I didn't know whether to storm in, collapse, or turn away. Instead, I just stayed there, gripping the railing so tightly my knuckles went white, breath shallow, heart heavy, realizing this was only the beginning. I sat in my truck long after leaving that building, rain beating against the windshield like fingertips drumming out a warning I should have heard months ago. The glow from my phone reflected off the glass, a pale blue flicker dancing across the steering wheel. I stared at the unknown number on the screen. The man who had been texting me, feeding me truths I wasn't ready to face, finally answered with a quiet, hollow breath. His voice had that worn-out quality people get when they've been broken and glued back together in the wrong shape. He told me his name was Evan. Not just some random stranger. Not a troll. Not someone trying to stir trouble. No, he was the ex Emily always described as obsessive, the one she said couldn't handle commitment, the one she painted as a villain in every story she told about her past. Except, as he spoke, piece by piece, the picture morphed into something far uglier. Something that fit perfectly with what I had just witnessed upstairs. He told me how Emily cheated on him more than once. How she'd twist the story to make herself the victim. How she'd accuse him of being emotionally vacant any time he questioned her behavior. It was eerie how much of it mirrored the things she'd been saying to me in recent months. A reused script for a recycled betrayal. She doesn't do this because she's unhappy, Evan said, voice breaking. She does it because stability feels like a cage to her. And his final words stuck with me like a blade under the ribs. Whatever she did tonight, that's just the beginning. Please don't forget to subscribe. The next morning, the house felt colder than usual, like the air itself sensed something between us had cracked. I sat alone at the kitchen table under the dim glow of a single lamp, the kind of light that exaggerates shadows and sharpens edges. I hadn't slept. I didn't want to. The silence kept me alert, thinking, remembering, connecting every dot I had ignored for months. When the front door finally creaked open at 5:07 a.m., the sound cut through the quiet like a blade. Emily stepped inside wearing the same dress she'd left in. Only now it was wrinkled, her makeup smudged, her hair tangled in a way that didn't come from a windy night. She froze when she saw me. Her keys slipped from her hand and clattered onto the hardwood floor, that sharp metallic sound echoing longer than it should have. I didn't move. I didn't even blink. I just looked at her, expressionless, letting the silence do what yelling never could. "Mark, I didn't think you'd be awake," she whispered, her voice cracking in a way that told me she already suspected I knew something. I stood slowly. "We'll talk later," I said, keeping my tone flat, controlled. Control was the one thing I needed to hang on to right now. Then I left the house without another word. The look on her face followed me all the way to my truck. Guilt, fear, and something else. Realization. For the first time, she understood that I wasn't clueless. I was preparing. And that scared her. By the time evening settled over the house, the light had changed into that muted orange that always made our living room look warmer than it really was. Emily kept drifting from room to room, pretending to tidy things that didn't need tidying, pretending she wasn't terrified. Her hands shook each time she adjusted a picture frame or wiped a spotless counter. I watched her move with this frantic, jittery energy, like a person pacing the edge of a confession they don't want to give. She kept glancing toward me as I sat on the couch, legs crossed, hands calmly resting on my knee. The more silent I became, the more she spiraled. My mother used to say silence was a truth extractor, and tonight I understood exactly what she meant. Every few minutes, Emily opened her mouth like she wanted to start a conversation, then closed it again when she saw how unbothered I appeared. It was the first time in years I felt in control. When she finally sat across from me, she forced a smile so stiff it barely moved her face. "Did you want to talk about something?" she asked, voice cracking. Her eyes flicked down to her phone as if waiting for some secret reassurance. Maybe from Mark. Maybe from someone else entirely. I reached into the folder beside me, pulled out the first small piece of paper, and placed it on the coffee table between us. A receipt from Saturday night. Her face stopped moving. Completely. Then I laid down the GPS printout. Then the screenshot from Mark's spouse. Her breath hitched, one sharp gasp. I let the silence stretch before I finally asked her, softly, almost politely, "So, how was the lantern room?" She went pale so fast it looked like the color had been ripped out of he. Please don't forget to subscribe. I don't think anything could have prepared me for the way Emily collapsed into herself when I finally sat down across from her at the dining table that night. The overhead light above us flickered, like even the house didn't know which one of us to believe. I kept my hands folded, steady, still. She couldn't stop wringing hers. Every time her fingers twisted together, I could hear the faint tremor of her wedding ring knocking against her knuckle. A sound I'd lived with for 8 years. A sound that suddenly felt like a lie I never noticed. The moment I said, "We need to talk," she already knew. Her eyes darted everywhere, toward the hallway, toward her phone on the counter, toward the window as if escape existed there. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse. I simply laid the facts in front of her, one at a time, like placing stones on a scale I already knew was broken. The receipts. The mileage logs. The screenshots. The picture of her walking into the lantern room with Mark and Lila. First came denial. Then outrage. Then blame, soft at first, then louder, then soft again when she realized I wasn't reacting to any of it. That's when her voice cracked. She said she'd felt unwanted, that she made a mistake, that she never meant to hurt me. But when I asked her to say the words, just say what happened, she couldn't look me in the eyes. When she finally spoke, the truth came out in a whisper. Yes, she slept with him. Yes, she thought I'd never find out. And then her phone buzzed. The screen lit up. Caller ID, unknown number. Evan. I walked through the park the next afternoon, the sun low enough to throw long shadows across the grass. My boots crushed acorns underfoot, the sound oddly grounding after months of chaos. I used to come here with Emily. We'd sit on the hill and watch joggers pass while she'd lean on my shoulder and talk about the future like it was this bright horizon we were marching toward together. Those memories used to sting, sharp, humiliating, but now they feel like old postcards of a place I can't return to. Peaceful but no longer mine. The divorce had gone through without the screaming, the drama, the theatrics you'd expect from a story like mine. It was strangely quiet. She moved out fast, eager to escape the wreckage she'd caused but pretending it wasn't her fault. I think she genuinely believed she was the victim. That was the final bitter lesson. Some people will burn the house down and cry about the smoke. I rebuilt slowly. Therapy twice a month. A new morning routine. Cooking for myself again. I stopped checking her social media. I started sleeping through the night. I started breathing normally. But last week, the universe, or someone with a long memory, reminded me of the world I'd barely escaped. A plain envelope arrived with no return address. Inside was a photograph of Emily at another dimly lit lounge, leaning into a stranger with that same coy, hungry smile I once mistook for affection. Beneath it, a handwritten note said, "She never stops." But you did. I don't know who sent it. Evan? A betrayed spouse? Someone else she used and discarded? Whoever it was, they weren't wrong. I stopped. I stepped out of her orbit. But she's still spinning. Some part of me sensed this wasn't the last I'd hear about her. Some lives trail fire long after you walk out. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, comment and share for more interesting stories.